My wife went missing while I was in a life-threatening battle with illness, leaving only a note that asked me not to search for her. After 4 years of relentless struggle, I finally made a full recovery, and now she's returned, hoping to restore things to the way they were. I agreed to let her back in my life just so I could show her how much things have changed. She was outraged when she saw who I'm now living with. 5 years ago, I married my ex-wife, Jenny. After about a year together, she left me during one of the hardest times in my life. We were both 25 at that time, having dated for 3 years after college before deciding to get married. It felt like the obvious next step, as we were genuinely happy together. But after only about 4 months of marriage, I was suddenly diagnosed with stage 2 cervical cancer. I had been experiencing symptoms for a couple of months, but we attributed them to regular fatigue and minor illnesses. When my health began to deteriorate further, we took the situation seriously, leading to my diagnosis. From then on, I was constantly in and out of the hospital. In those early months, Jenny was incredibly supportive, taking meticulous care of me, handling all the medical reports and communicating regularly with the doctors. I felt I had nothing to worry about because she was there for me in every way. When I started chemotherapy and began losing my hair, she even shaved her head to show solidarity. In short, she was completely perfect. However, when 6 months passed with no improvement in my health despite numerous treatments, Jenny's hopes started to falter. I wasn't showing any progress, and my condition only worsened over time. Gradually, she began to emotionally withdraw, avoiding conversations, and even when I tried to reach out, she would just shut me out. I was already going through so much, and her cold behavior felt like rejection. Unable to handle it, I started instigating arguments with her just to get her attention. For a while, it seemed to work, but soon she grew even more distant. Then, about 2 weeks before our 1-year anniversary, I woke up one morning to find her gone. The only thing she left behind was a note on our bedside table telling me not to try looking for her because she didn't want to be found. I thought this might be some kind of prank, so I tried calling and messaging her, but none of my attempts went through. Soon, I realized she had blocked me, not just my phone number but also on social media. In a panic, I called her parents, who told me they didn't know anything about her whereabouts but promised to get back to me as soon as possible, though they never did. My parents moved in with me to care for me, assuming Jenny would return in a few days, but she never came back. After she disappeared, I searched everywhere, doing my best to find her, but it was futile. She was gone for good. Recovering emotionally from that took a long time, and I fell into a deep depression. I tried contacting her parents several times following her disappearance, but after that initial call, they ignored me. A month later, they visited, acting strangely cold, only to serve me with divorce papers. The realization that they had been in touch with Jenny but chose not to reveal any details devastated me. They told me she wanted nothing more to do with me, expressing their regret, but explaining that she felt she couldn't waste her life with me any longer. The pain I felt was intense because it was clear to me that the only reason she left was due to my cancer. She simply didn't want to take care of me anymore. I understood that it must have been hard on her, but I believe after 3 years together and a year of marriage that we at least owed each other one open and honest conversation about our feelings. But she didn't think she owed me even that much, choosing instead to leave without a single word. It took me time to accept this emotionally, but once her parents served me with divorce papers, I signed without any resistance. I recognized there was nothing left in the relationship worth fighting for, so I chose to let go with dignity. I did, of course, have a lawyer review everything carefully, but her terms were fair. After only a year of marriage, we didn't share any assets, and neither of us wanted to drag things out. So, Once the waiting period ended, our divorce was finalized without us even meeting face to face. All communication went through my lawyer, who spoke with her parents and attorney on my behalf, and since it was an uncontested divorce, there was no need for us to see each other. After that, I never heard from my in-laws again. Though completely devastated, I knew I had to move forward. My condition had worsened due to the heartbreak, and despite my parents trying to stay strong, I could tell it was hard for them to see me in such a state. For their sake, I knew I couldn't just give up, even though, at the time, it seemed like it would have been easier. I decided to fight for my life. Whether it was a change in mindset or the treatment finally working, I somehow managed to pull through. Right now, I'm doing well, and for the past 3 months, I've been cancer-free. It hasn't been easy at all, and over the last 4 years, I've done my best to appreciate being alive. Part of that gratitude included allowing myself a second chance at love, which is why I agreed to let my ex-wife move in with me 6 months ago. For some background, my ex and I met in college, dated for 2 years, but went our separate ways after graduation since we wanted different things in life. My ex, whom I'll call Anna, was part of the same friend group as Jenny, so I knew Jenny through her. After graduation, Anna and I lost touch. A few months after Anna and I split, Jenny reached out, and we started talking. We became friends, and within a few months, she confessed her feelings for me, admitting that she had always liked me but held back because I was with Anna. Now that I was single, she wanted to ask me out. Eventually, after a couple of months, I agreed, and that's how we ended up together. But even as our relationship got serious, Jenny seemed insecure about Anna. Though Anna and I had stayed friends after our breakup, I gradually distanced myself from her, eventually cutting off all contact to avoid making Jenny uncomfortable. Our mutual friends mentioned that Anna was hurt by my sudden silence and blocking her, but at that time, my commitment to Jenny was more important to me than anything else, as I was very serious about her. Eventually, I married Jenny, and Anna became a distant memory. 10 months later, I had finally come to terms with the fact that Jenny was gone for good and wasn't coming back. I shared this with a few friends, and they encouraged me to reach out to Anna, even if it was just on friendly terms. So, that's what I did. Not intending to rekindle anything romantic, I simply wanted to clear the air between us, since she had obviously made an effort to reach out to me as well. I replied to her in a completely friendly, non-romantic way, and we began talking again. Over time, we returned to being close friends, and it felt nice to have someone to connect with regularly, especially since Anna understood me better than anyone else. I had other friends, of course, but Anna and I shared something unique, and speaking with her genuinely made me happy. My parents noticed the positive effect this had on me and encouraged me to keep talking to her, even if it was just as friends. For the first few months, Anna and I only communicated online, but soon she began visiting me at home. Gradually, we grew closer, though I wasn't ready to get back together with her romantically. Anna, however, was patient and never gave up on me. Last year, she finally admitted that she had never truly stopped loving me, and it had broken her heart when I started dating Jenny. Although it was painful for her, she stayed away because my happiness was enough for her to keep her distance. But now that Jenny was out of the picture and we had reconnected as friends, she felt compelled to be honest with me. She confessed her feelings, but made it clear that she didn't expect anything in return. She just needed to be open about how she felt. I appreciated her honesty, but I was confused. It had only been 3 years since my divorce, and unresolved feelings about Jenny and our past made it hard for me to decide if I should move on, even though I was fairly certain that my feelings for Anna were now deeper than they had been before. My parents and friends talked to me, reminding me that 3 years had passed since the divorce. They told me that if Jenny hadn't returned by now, it likely meant she never truly cared for me and never would. Given my health improvements and the fact that I had fought hard for my life, I realized I needed to appreciate what I had in the present because the future was unpredictable. They encouraged me to stop living in the past and give Anna a chance. A couple of weeks after her confession, I decided to rekindle our relationship. A few months later, Anna expressed her desire to take care of me, suggesting she move in. Since she was already spending most of her time at my place, my parents and I discussed it and decided it made sense. So I agreed, and since then, we've been living together. I truly enjoy having her around. A few weeks after Anna moved in and adjusted to my routine, my parents moved out, though they still visit regularly. They now have more time for themselves, which I believe they appreciate. I'm not ready to consider marriage again, but Anna and I have talked about it, and it's something we may think about down the line. For now, I'm just grateful to be cancer-free and to be living with someone who loves me deeply, and I feel the same about her. Everything was going smoothly until earlier this week when Jenny contacted me. She had unblocked me on all platforms and messaged me on Facebook, admitting she had treated me poorly and that I hadn't deserved it. She acknowledged that my cancer diagnosis and treatment struggles were beyond my control, but she had become frustrated and had made the cowardly decision to leave without discussing anything with me. Jenny said she felt she owed me closure and honesty and expressed a desire to reconcile, claiming that she had missed me terribly over the past 4 years. She was now willing to give our marriage a second chance, even if it meant caring for me for the rest of her life, as she felt ready to bring things back to how they had been before. I invited her over, but not for the reasons she might have assumed. This is where I may have acted poorly, as my intentions were clear. I wanted to make her feel the hurt she had caused me. I hadn't shared news of my recovery on social media, so only my family and closest friends knew I was in good health now. Jenny likely assumed I was still battling cancer, and after 4 years of absence, finally chose to reach out, expecting that I would accept her return without hesitation. I felt insulted that she believed I'd take her back so easily after she had pretended I didn't exist for 4 years. Her message left me seething because it showed she genuinely thought I'd just welcome her back with no questions asked. And she hadn't even explained what she'd been doing during all this time apart. He seemed incredibly confident, which upset me deeply. So I made up my mind to teach her a lesson. I invited her to my home, intending to show her what my new life looked like. She had no idea that I was living with Anna, as I've always been private about my relationships. In fact, the only time I had ever posted about my relationship online was when Jenny and I got married. Because of this, very few people know about my relationship with Anna, and none of them have been in touch with Jenny. That's why, when Jenny arrived at my house a few days ago, holding flowers and chocolates, the first thing I did after opening the door was to call Anna over. I told Jenny, plainly, that while I appreciated her apology and the gifts, I had moved on with my life and had no interest in reconciling. Jenny immediately started losing her composure, especially when she saw Anna, who had always been a source of insecurity for her. She began yelling, accusing me of betrayal and even claiming I cheated on her, though I have no idea how that counts as cheating when I wasn't even with Jenny at the time I reconnected with Anna. But I wasn't concerned about her reaction. My only goal had been to shock her, and I had succeeded in that. While she was having an emotional breakdown on my porch, I simply closed the door, and Anna and I returned to watching TV. I hadn't informed Anna about my intentions, but she didn't have a problem with what I did. However, my parents and friends felt I shouldn't have handled it that way, saying I could have just let it go instead of bringing negativity back into my life. And honestly, they weren't wrong. Since Jenny left that day, her parents have been persistently trying to contact me, accusing me of being heartless. They argue that if I had truly moved on, I shouldn't have invited their daughter over, which they believe gave her false hope. They insist she genuinely regretted her actions and was making an effort to mend things, and that's why she reached out and came to visit. They've accused me of deliberately trying to harm her mental health, and even suggested that I was having an affair with Anna all along. This accusation is absurd, considering they know I spent the past 4 years focused entirely on my health and had completely cut Anna out of my life for Jenny before we married. I can't fathom how they could accuse me of such a thing, especially since they're well aware that I prioritized my recovery above all else. They're trying to cast me as the villain, as if their daughter is entirely innocent. As I mentioned before, my parents and friends think what I did was unnecessary. They understand why I felt the need to get back at her, but view it as a petty act. They haven't made a huge deal of it, but shared their opinions, which makes me feel somewhat guilty. I realize I could have avoided this entire situation by simply not responding to Jenny's message. I know I acted out of pettiness, and although I feel bad about it, I don't think I owe her an apology. I don't believe it's as big of an issue as her parents are making it out to be, especially given that she left me when I was fighting for my life and then vanished for 4 years, not even showing up for the divorce. Her parents never showed any remorse over this, so I don't see why they expect me to just forgive and forget now. They know full well how Jenny treated me back then, so I don't understand why they now expect me to move on without issue. Update. I felt... Thank you so much for all the comments on my post. They've been incredibly helpful. I talked to my parents and friends about why I did what I did, and I admit it was petty and absolutely unnecessary. I could have avoided the drama by ignoring Jenny, but I felt a need for closure and acted impulsively in the heat of the moment. It probably wasn't the best way to handle things, but I don't regret it. My friends and family didn't have much to say. We agreed not to dwell on it since it wasn't as big of a deal as some might think. Perhaps I didn't communicate clearly in my original post. But just to clarify, my family and friends never insisted that I apologize to Jenny. They simply disagreed with my actions but left it at that. They weren't guilt-tripping me like my in-laws. After discussing it, we decided to agree to disagree. It's not a major issue for them, and our relationships remain the same. The only problem now is my in-laws, who are furious and believe I emotionally tormented their daughter by inviting her over. They insist I owe her a huge apology and demand I explain that I wasn't involved with Anna while I was with Jenny. They've sent multiple emails telling me to apologize to Jenny in person, claiming she's completely broken down. I don't understand why my in-laws expect so much from me, especially when we've barely had a relationship since the divorce. They were fully aware that what Jenny did was wrong, yet they still supported her and even helped her avoid me during the divorce. I'm not blaming them entirely, but they played a significant role in why I never received emotional closure during our separation. Why am I now expected to make peace simply because Jenny's mental health is at stake? Update 2. 3 days since my last update, things have been calm, but it's clear that Jenny and her parents aren't content with that. Anna and I both work from home, but it seems they didn't realize that they probably assumed Anna wouldn't be around. Jenny and her parents visited me early this morning, and as soon as I opened the door, they started demanding that I talk to Jenny and give her an explanation for everything going on. They claimed she was extremely confused, and they wouldn't allow their daughter to endure this situation. I simply rolled my eyes and told them I wasn't going to entertain any of this nonsense. I reminded them that Jenny never bothered to explain herself when she left, so now she could think whatever she wanted. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of an explanation or a reaction. The only reason I had even opened the door was to say this directly to their faces. Then I told them to leave, or I would call the cops. Jenny then began screaming, "I came back for you, and this is how you repay me? After everything I've done, how could you?" She accused me of being a horrible person for what I had done, calling me petty and selfish before starting to curse at me. At that point, Anna, who had heard the yelling, came to my side. She looked furious, and I could tell she was barely restraining herself from responding to Jenny. Not wanting things to escalate, I pulled out my phone and told Jenny and her parents that they needed to leave or I would actually call the police. They argued with me for a few more seconds, but left as soon as I started dialing, though they hurled insults on their way out. It didn't bother me, but Anna was visibly upset and cursed back at them. Fortunately, Anna told me afterward that she had started recording the entire exchange on her phone. Although the video didn't capture much visually, she got a full audio recording of Jenny yelling, and she didn't stop recording until they had left. Now that we have this recording, we're prepared to press charges if they show up again. We also plan to contact our lawyer to file a restraining order against Jenny and her family if necessary, but I truly hope it doesn't come to that, and they finally leave me alone, as I've said all that I needed to. Update 3. It's been a couple of days since Jenny and her parents showed up at my house, and they haven't tried contacting me since, which has been a relief. I shared what happened with a few friends, and while they agreed that my actions were petty and unnecessary, they thought Jenny's family's response was extreme. They advised me to speak with a lawyer just in case, though I don't think I'll need to since last night I received an email from Jenny. In the email, Jenny told me she's moving to Europe with her parents and won't bother me again. She explained that after she left me, she relocated to California for a new job she had applied for while we were still together. She hadn't discussed it with me because she knew it would be impossible for me to move at that time, nor did she want me to even consider it. She admitted that leaving me while I was struggling for my life would have made her feel like a terrible person, so she chose to avoid any confrontation, acknowledging that it was cowardly. While she'd had a few flings over the past 4 years, she couldn't get serious with anyone because she kept regretting how things had ended with me. Recently, she'd applied for a job in Europe, and she had come back here a few months ago to convince her parents to join her in a fresh start. That's why she reached out to me, to at least apologize and see if we could give our relationship another try. But after seeing me with Anna, she realized she had no right to intrude on my life, especially after everything she had put me through. She admitted she had no right to question me, nor did her parents, so she was doing the decent thing by leaving me alone. She acknowledged that her apology was too late and inadequate, but wanted to apologize for her cowardice and for sending her parents to confront me. Jenny concluded by saying that she could see Anna truly loved me, and that I was happy with her so she would stay out of my life. I have to admit I'm relieved she came to this conclusion. I didn't respond to her email, but I did share it with Anna, my friends, and my parents, who all agreed that this was enough to put an end to the situation, allowing us to move forward. This is good timing because in a few months I'd like to marry Anna and begin a new chapter in my life with her. I feel like I've finally received the closure I needed, and I'm ready to embrace marriage, start a family, and live my life fully once again.